Good morning, everyone. What we'd like to discuss this morning is the excellent work that's been done by the officers of the Harrisburg Bureau of Police throughout 2018 regarding gun seizures. But before I begin, I'd like to introduce everyone. To my right, of course, you know Commissioner Carter. We have Officer Darrell Foose, Officer Chad McGowan, and Sergeant Ty Mike. To my left, you have Deputy Chief Moody. You have Task Force Officer Darren Bates, Detective Richard Gibney, and Task Force Officer Michael Rudy. In 2016, the Commissioner gave our department a mission. That mission was to take as many illegal guns off the street. He understood that every single illegal gun that we took off the street was one less victim in the city. That reduction in those illegal guns would reduce the violence tremendously. In the last 3 years, our department has taken 646 guns off the street. We can't say that each one of these guns would have been used in a shooting, a robbery, or even homicide. But our department has taken 646 opportunities to injure citizens of the city with some kind of violence. What you see before you is just a sampling of the firearms that was taken in 2018. This is less than a third of the firearms. In 2018, we took 198 guns off the street total. 181 handguns, 11 rifles, and 6 shotguns. In 2017, we took 252 guns off the street. That was 233 handguns, 10 rifles, and 9 shotguns. In 2016, we took 196 guns off the street, 174 handguns, 3 rifles, and 19 shotguns. If you take a look at some of these handguns and rifles, they are high capacity, meaning that they can carry a lot more rounds. They have extended magazines. We have one firearm there that has a drum that can hold anywhere about 50 rounds. We have extended magazines on handguns. And all of these guns were seized without our officers, or mostly without our officers, engaging those individuals with gunfire. As you know, we've had several incidents where officers were needed to use their firearms. But when you start looking at all of these handguns, our officers have shown great restraint. And I think we, as an agency, have been able to fulfill the mission of our commissioner. So, Commissioner.
Thank you, Captain. Good morning to everyone. This was a mission that I talked to my deputy chief about and my captain, and it was a mission that we all understood that we were going to put our officers in direct danger. If you can recall, a couple years ago, we had the Baltimore incident, we had the Ferguson incident. You know, we had numerous incidents, you know, where police officers were engaging youth, and a lot of times, unfortunately, you know, it resulted in gunfire and someone, you know, getting shot and sometimes killed. Sometimes it was officers, and sometimes it was civilians. It was something that we wanted to do because we were having a lot of rampant gunfire throughout the city. You know, just our youth and other people just running around here, you know, just shooting guns into cars, shooting bullets into cars, you know, just letting off rounds. And it was something that we had to try to stop. And I talked to my command staff, and I said that I will not engage in doing a buyback program, because usually when you get a buyback program, you're getting a lot of elderly people who hand their guns in because they need cash for food or for heating oil or what have you. And the people that we want to get the guns from, they never bring their guns in. So one of the first things I did, I talked to Sergeant Ty Mike, and I said, Sergeant, I need for the street crime unit guys to engage people on the streets, and I need for them to get as many illegal guns off the street as they possibly can. I knew that this was a dangerous mission, but it was something that we had to do because the safety of our residents here mean more to me than anything else. I have respect for all my officers. I believe that I have the best officers in the whole area. And that's not taking anything away from any other agency, but I work with these here young men and young women day in and like day out, and I know their capabilities, I know their compassion to do their jobs, and I know how they want to do their jobs right and how everybody wants to go home. So it was something that the whole agency bought into. So this is a result of our efforts out there. I believe my captain said it was 640 plus handguns. And we come across situations where people were actually engaged in like shootouts. But we were able to retrieve guns from these people without getting into a shootout with them. I want to thank my deputy chief, my captain. I want to thank my federal operatives. I want to thank my street crimes unit and every officer who was employed by the city of Harrisburg because they all did a fantastic job. I talked to the mayor about it, and he said, "Are you sure that that's what you want to do because you're going to endanger your officers?" I said, "I want to do it." And to show them that I wasn't just a commissioner or a police chief that just talks and don't walk the walk, I went out there and I got an AK-47 off the street with a 100-round drum and a couple magazines in a bulletproof vest. I also got a handgun off the streets. Harrisburg is changing. Harrisburg is moving. There's a lot of good things going on here, and the people of Harrisburg deserve better than to worry about getting their property shot up. My officers deserve better than to worry about, getting hit by random gunfire. As you can recall, just recently, a couple months ago, we were out on the hill when a 15-year-old kid got shot, and just a block over or so, a car was driving down the street shooting. My officers were put into the line of fire. It was a bad situation, but they were able to apprehend people without returning fire. So we're going to continue this campaign. We're going to continue to get guns off the street. There's a teaching lesson in this here for everybody. We're not going to have it here. We are just not going to have it. And I can't tell you, that us taking this many guns off the street has reduced the homicide number, but I can tell you that it has reduced the amount of violent crime that we were once faced with in the city. Thank you.
Currently, the commissioner had just indicated the trend in crime. Currently, we're trending about close to 10% reduction in violent crime. We hope to have those numbers out available to you probably in March. The officers that you see to my right, these are all members of the street crime unit. They go out every evening. These officers actually engage a lot of the violent individuals and get a lot of these guns off. The individuals to my right are task force officers. They're Harrisburg Bureau of Police officers. Officer Bates is a task force officer for the DEA. ATF, sorry. Detective Gibney is with the FBI. And Officer Rudy is with the U.S. Marshals. So as you see, we've partnered with a lot of different agencies, and we utilize a lot of different strategies to get these weapons off the street, and more importantly, get the individuals who had these firearms into custody and into prison. So, any questions?
So what happens to these firearms next?
Those that have been reported stolen, we try to find the owners, return those to them. That is after they go through the hearing process. They are held until they go to hearing. Once they go through that process, we try to find the owners to return them. If we cannot find owners, then they are destroyed.
Were most of these seized during arrests?
Yes.
And so, do you have to convince the individual to give it to you, or is it seized when they're being patted down?
Most of these guns are illegally possessed, so they don't normally want to surrender them. It's usually during the process of the arrest that they're seized.
Sergeant Todd, I'd like to address that.
Yeah, a lot of the things that you see here, the guns that we get, come in various ways and situations and forms. It could just be a mere encounter of somebody on the street. It could be during a traffic stop. It could be during a probation check. It could be during a crime itself that we get involved with, where we get a call where somebody's being robbed, and it's active at that point. So they come from various situations, various forms. Some are thrown during individuals fleeing from us. So no one gun here is just one specific way of us getting it, or being able to seize them. They're coming from a variety of ways.
And as indicated before, this is a small number. I mean, this is a bureau-wide mission. So our uniform patrol has helped in seizing a lot of these weapons as well. So I just want to make sure that you understand that it's not just these officers, it's a department-wide mission. Any other questions?
Yeah, when you say that there's been a 10% reduction in violent crime, do you mean 2018 versus 2017? or
Correct.
what? Okay.
Correct.
Are all types of violent crime down? Or are any types of violent crime up?
I'd have to look at the specific numbers. I know overall, Part 1 crimes are trending towards 10% reduction. I believe Part 2 crimes are trending somewhere around 5 or 6% reduction.
Could you talk about, before this mission started, I believe in 2016, what changed since then to get more guns off the streets?
Every department is a reflection of their leadership. And in this case, our leader, the commissioner, has put forth a mission to us that he wanted guns off the street. And that was not a hard sell for the officers. We all understood that these weapons can be used against the citizens of the city and also us. So with us trying to focus on trying to seize all these weapons, we make it safer for everyone.
Are you able to say, maybe not specifics, but are you finding that some of these firearms are coming out of the hands of juveniles?
Yes, it is a mixture of adults and juveniles. The ones that have been stolen, most of them have been from outside the city.
You
What's
find-
what's the charge for someone who has a illegal firearm?
It depends how they have it illegally. If you have a weapon on you and you don't have a license to carry and you're over the age of 21, it's carrying a firearm with a license. If you are a person who's been found guilty of specific offenses where it prohibits you from ever possessing a firearm, it will be, what's the correct name? We always call it persons not to possess.
Those misdemeanors,
Those are felonies.
felonies?
Do you find a high rate of recidivism, like taking illegal weapons from the same person over and over again?
Sergeant Tsai?
Yes, we do. We do.
Do you know then whether to like, watch that guy and know that that's going to happen?
I mean, obviously, when we're out there on the street, obviously we're using things that based on our knowledge, other officers. I mean, everybody, like the commissioner said, and the captain basically touched on, it's a whole community. Our whole police force is a whole community. We work together. So when we do this, we're sharing information. We're information sharing. Sometimes we share information with other agencies. So we're getting this information, and yes, that does actually come into play where we might look at one particular person because he may have or she may have already had an offense with a firearm. So we're going to take that into more of a spotlight to look at that person to possibly, if we're encountering them, to make sure that we're being safe with them. Because obviously, like I said, with all these guns here, a lot of these people are repeat offenders.
And one of the things that Sergeant Mike touched upon is a couple of years we did see many of the offenders were repeat offenders when it came to gun violence. We sat down with the U.S. Attorney's Office and District Attorney's Office to see if we can come up with some way where we can hold those individuals who have multiple firearms violations more accountable. So that started in the tail end of 2015, and it kind of filtered its way in, and we have a solid program now. So we meet monthly with those individuals. We go over every single gun case that we have in the city for that month, and it's reviewed to determine what exactly would be done. That's been very, very helpful. You have seen through the news releases coming out of the U.S. Attorney's Office regarding the individuals who have been prosecuted for firearms violations. That's actually one of the fruits from those meetings.
So since this, I guess, program began in 2016, how has the police work like tactically changed? And like, has it changed your protocol for during arrests? Help you seize more firearms? And like, what was happening before 2016?
More centralized intelligence. We're working a lot more. We have a lot of individual units within the department, and I think we're sharing a lot more information, especially when it comes to specific individuals. We no longer have just one group of officers looking for that. It's a collaborative.
So
One
how
of
do
the
you?
things that we did too is, what you saw just last week or so was our ballistic vest program. These are some of the equipment needs that we saw as we stepped up our efforts to do this. And as you can see some of the weaponry over there, we realized a very real deficiency in our own equipment. And, you know, all of these pieces then begin to tie into, okay, why did they do this? Why are they getting that? Why are they getting this? And the more enforcement that we do collectively, the more we see, the more equipment we need. So when you ask about what other things changed as a result of that, we picked up on our ballistic protection for our officers, the more engagement, the more likelihood that they may be involved in some type of a shootout. And we want to make sure that our officers are prepared to deal with those types of incidents. You saw some of the difference in some, well, you may not see them, but some of how we tactically do things. There's a lot of training that we train now our own officers to treat. I don't know if any of them have them on there, but you see a lot of our officers will have tourniquets on themselves. These are things that our officers now responding to a scene, not just for ourselves. Most officers carry a tourniquet for themselves if they're shot, but also if they get to a scene where a person is shot, where we can start to do immediate medical treatment to them while we're waiting for EMS to come into the scene. So every piece kind of lays on top of the next one, but when you talk about changes in operationally how we do things, it's a full system approach where it's not just one thing. We're changing everything dramatically across the board to provide a much better service to everyone, including ourselves.
Okay, so under this program, do you think you're pursuing people or crimes you might not have proactively pursued before to get a firearm before it's involved in an incident?
I don't think anything's changed in our method of
Okay.
law enforcement in the sense of what our mission is. It's just there's a bigger emphasis now when the boss is coming down and looking at you is like, how many guns did you get today? You know, it's like, okay, I know I got all of this other stuff to do, but it's also, the boss is pushing. He's coming down to the roll calls. He's talking every time he talks. I feel bad sometimes for the street crimes guys, and the boss and I, we talk about this because he drives them hard with that every day. How many guns did you get? How many guns did you get? How many guns did you get? And that kind of ingrains in like, okay, I know I have a mission to do, but I also know that this is the mission that the boss wants. So we got to make sure that they're doing what they need to do daily, but in addition to get these guns off my street. So it just drives them a little harder, and it just kind of, when you think like, okay, I just need to do this, enough is enough, and there's always a little bit more of a push. I know this is what the boss is doing. I know this is the program that we're driving. So these officers here, which is just a reflection, their unit is, it's both probation and police officers that ride together in this unit, in the street crimes unit. And I think we've done specials before on that particular unit. But that's a collaborative effort. They meet, they have intelligence meetings, and they come up with a program to address some of the issues. I'm not going to get too deep in it, but we got things in the mixer right now that we will talk about once they're done. So there's always something going on. There's always a collaborative effort. But to just say that, we're just worried about this or worried about that, we do a complete crime is crime. We're going to do that. But there's always good to have a little side mission on the side, like, hey, I did this, but I also got a gun today. I also got 2 guns today, or I got 5 guns this week, or I got 1 gun this week. It's just another little feather in the cap, and the boss comes down. When he sees it, you just see a big smile on his face, and that's what they're doing.
Okay. I guess I just don't understand, like, before 2016, were guns that were illegally on the street, like, remaining illegally on the street?
No, what was
it, like,
happening-
during a traffic stop or something like that, were guns not being looked for?
What was happening then is an individual had an illegal firearm, they would get arrested, and that would be the end of it. They'd have their time in court.
Okay.
Now we're looking at a more collaborative approach where we're meeting with the U.S. Attorney's Office, we're meeting with the District Attorney's Office. We're looking to, we amended the District Attorney's Office amended bail settings for individuals caught with an illegal firearm, where he increased the bail for those individuals. So it's been a collaborative effort, not so much in only just getting the guns, but also holding those individuals accountable for it,
All the way back to ownership.
all the way back to ownership. That's why we have someone on the task force with the ATF. So we do look for straw purchases. That's when a second party or third party purchases a gun for someone who should not have one. So we're looking into those as well.
How do you track those?
Not going to go into the specific of that. When anyone purchases a firearm, you have to do specific paperwork. That paperwork is kept on file. When someone is found with that gun, we trace it all the way back to the owner. The owner has to explain what happened with their gun.
Especially if it's not stolen.
Do a lot of people report stolen firearms in the city?
They're in the city.
Yes.
Most of the firearms that are reported stolen that we seized are from outside the city.
Okay.
And there are many that are not reported until we actually contact them.
Have you found that Harrisburg's handgun ordinance has had any effect on your policing or crime in the city?
The crime ordinances are summary offenses, so those are mostly fines. For these, we go through the state law, which are felonies.
Commissioner Carter, can you talk about the mission and why that was so important to you back in 2016? If there was a turning point or, you know, what caused you to be so passionate about this mission?
We have always had a mission of getting guns off the street, so it really didn't start then. It started before then under other chiefs, but what I happen to have is enrichment of people who are streetwise, who understood, you know, the way that a person's pants sagged, you know, the way that they favored one side and what have you, you know, they knew what to look for. Then I had a deputy chief, you know, where him and I, you know, we would argue regularly about it and then, you know, and hammer things out, you know, because it's a heck of a thing, you know, to put your people in the line of fire constantly. I would jump every night, my phone would go off, you know, not knowing who was on the other end of it. And then Uniform Patrol works for Deputy Chief Moody, and CID works for the captain here. But, you know, we had Ty, Mike, and his group of people, plus the probation, DA's office, the federal operatives, everybody, you know, just bought into it, you know. So it sort of made it a lot easier. Sergeant Mike, he's an excellent supervisor. He sent his people to training. Officer McGowan, Officer Foos, you know, Officer Foos herself this year has gotten over 30-plus guns off the street. You know, she was in danger constantly. Some of these are situations where like really, really hairy and, you know, but I had enough trust, enough faith in my people that they were trained enough, they understood the risks, they weren't going to overstep that, so I just felt comfortable, you know, that we can go out there and just try to get as many handguns off the streets as possible.
Is there anything, like, are there any state laws that you would like to see strengthened that could help your police work locally? Are there universal background checks or different regulations for tracking firearms?
I'm not going to touch that right now, you know, but, you know, there's legislation out there, you know, that, you know, things are changing. The DA's office and the federal attorney's office, they are working with us and they're making things a lot manageable for us. And so we're all working together. And for those there, repeat people, they're making it harder for them to get out.
Commissioner, obviously these are a lot of guns, but there's obviously much more out there. What's the message you kind of want to give to the community?
Well, and you're right about that. This is probably, don't even shake the basket of what's out there. Every day, you know, we're learning, you know, of more guns coming into the city and what have you. You know, but my message out there is that, you know, the men and women in blue, the command staff, you know, we're here to make Harrisburg a safer place. We're not going to rest on that mission until we do everything that we can possibly do. You know, sometimes I'm high strung when it comes to homicides, and I take them personal. I know I cannot control what people do. I can't control the population here. And my command staff, especially Derek, he has to talk me down from from that. But, you know, we're just going to do everything that we can do, you know, to make sure that, you know, elderly people and little kids will be able to walk the streets safely without being in fear of getting robbed or getting shot or being mugged or anything like that.
Do you need warrants to seize any of these? Like, I assume you can get a handgun off of a personal search, but like a firearm like that, to search
It
a
depends
house or a
where,
vehicle?
it depends where they're found. If the person's carrying them, no. If the person commits some type of offense in a vehicle, so we can actually go in the vehicle. If they're in a home, we'll need a search warrant to get those. Any other questions? If not, thank you very much.